nahat abach bada huint oko apenalt ego hateliado no jot at it egit ego lel benel stolelto no jolto ben has a konti tsda yego go be has ani hateliai bik on stolel beson dan degi dat tsda be has en dolel adon dat de nekeda hat enigit als hobel ult hatolel adon dat nan steht dat als ho bel ho hinten don genot at al enit abel dest ego judit hateliao in als bena has ani bahtatet edole jo ikut ela okollahagot onhitlen chenish go eya en rekenda sago ko Washington beda inishiki jo to benacha khanne la municipality government nego ko hatelia jo be onestole to nego ko eya kenda sago ko Washington beda inishiki hatalia ki I sit anant al-Trahassi Lochala Salau Ya inili da beto no ebelhaz anegi in the anahui ahi court edat egi da nihe hulondole. Adon da inal tribe da inishi dat egi adon da atingo kin betrada as tin okon senat leda bekanta as tin edo da tsazeda. And that as cado that the street paving jo altashne adon that an rate il zeta yo da hiki nlaho hotal enchoti da panahas adole adon that the nebin da hiki public transportation bus da bedi ne choti that da pata holondole ado kin ade niliki bik go benahas ani ndas zogi da Jodi dat egi da hatatet edole. Dat egi ko in sesse chitepan da jegi do ko in da nishi di da fire department di da adon da ko chiniaj da joli da ne and da ado lena ne da besen da has adon da lahot o de da del jaho da out ne da chinya de public parts da nenegi jodi Adi ended that nation darkness, caught nebich in the hui nago, don't satanda, think that a con, Jodi that da Abishna has adolish. Adi ended the utility services, basically chi nasta held de ligi, to that that ton choinch eda slenita, debe national store later. Johut agua edi kinda sago Washington sa aniki. Jo ik national store later. Jo stop in has andi jo kondial ba attendo und da beach na hui na hashinella jo tipeni na schnet asit anan dit egi icheleko kwa egi sto onhilch na adolish ishit oban so kesel hasin so
At the chapter meetings, you've made some presentations. Some of the questions that I hear over and over again, I thought maybe we would cover today. Calvin, in the Council of Nata, if you have three officials, the president, the vice president, the secretary, and the treasurer are elected at large, then do their jobs remain the same?
Yes, but there's more. The jobs will be explained more in the 5 management system policies, the alternative form of government ordinance, and the Local Governance Act.
If the council makes the decisions, how do the people fit in?
The council can yield the floor to the members that are present and who wish to speak so the people continue to have a say. The council meeting should be public, open meetings, and this can be spelled out in the records policy or ordinance.
In any of the alternative form of government, will the council's vote resolution carry much weight if the council is reduced to 12 or less?
As long as the council or commissioners have a quorum, the action will be deemed an official action. The alternative form of government ordinance should specify the total size of the council or commission, and a quorum is typically a majority of members unless the alternative form of government ordinance requires a larger number.
In the Council of Nata, if the chapter president, the vice president, the secretary, treasurer are elected, then are the 9 representatives part of council?
The answer is yes. The other 9 representatives have a vote which carries the same weight as the elected officials. This is consistent with the one man, one vote principle.
If we change to an alternative form of government, what happens to the quorum?
The quorum will depend upon the alternative form of government chosen. For example, if we have a commission manager alternative form of government chosen by the people, the quorum will consist of a majority of commissioners. So if you have 5 total commissioners, then 3 must be present to constitute a quorum. In another example, in the Council of Natah, you have a total of 12 officials, 3 elected and 9 appointed representatives, so a quorum would be 7.
Yeah, yeah, we yeah, yeah, we yeah, yeah, we yeah, yeah, we
I want to thank Mr. Edison Wanika for joining us this day. As a former council delegate who may have been involved with drafting legislation for the alternative government forms, and now as the executive director for election administration, I was wondering if you might be able to answer a couple questions for us. What is the first step for a community seeking an alternative form of government?
There is 2 processes that a chapter goes through. The first process really deals with them at the community levels. Their responsibility has to do with either choosing one of the models that was given to them by the TCDC, the Transportation Community Development Committee, or the other model that can be established is a model that they can implement on their own.
I want to clarify here that the chapters, upon establishing a committee, will choose a model that best suits their needs. So when does a chapter present their alternative government model to their community?
Once they get to the point of where they present it to the community, at a quorum, at a regularly scheduled chapter meeting, they approve the alternative government. The quorum of the chapter has to approve the alternative government.
What do you mean by a quorum?
The governing body of the chapter is the quorum of the chapter, where 25 or more registered members of the community come together and they make a quorum. And they're the decision-making body of the community. The chapter officials only officiate. So it has to be but the quorum of the chapter that approves the alternative government.
So after the quorum at the chapter approves the alternative form of governance, what happens next?
Once they make that approval, then the next process will be for an official approval of that. And that has to happen by a majority of the voters in that community. And it has to be done by referendum vote. That's where we get involved as far as the election administration is concerned. We provide the guidance to them, the timeline. They can have a special election.
How many votes are needed to place an item on a referendum ballot?
In order to put an item on the ballot by the people, you needed 30% of the registered voters, but the council changed it to 15%.
And how many votes are needed for a referendum to pass?
The results of a referendum used to be majority of all registered voters, but that was also changed to a simple majority because it was too stringent on the voters for them to change any laws or change to an alternative government. And that's where the voting portion of it has been amended and make it easier.
In a referendum, what is the process for getting 1, the ballot language, and 2, the summary of intent approved?
Chapter approves the alternative government. Then they have to do a ballot language and a summary of their intent. Those 2 items have to be presented to the Navajo Board of Election Supervisors. And that 2 process involves the Legislative Council and also the Department of Justice. They're the 2 bodies that need to establish the language and then also the summary of the proposed alternative government.
So what is the role of the Board of Election Supervisors?
Their main purpose, the Navajo Board of Election Supervisors, is to ensure that the voting public understand what the intent of the referendum is. So the language has to be clear. When the people go out to vote, they have to understand the intent of the referendum.
What happens if a referendum fails?
If a referendum fails, like that happened at Shanto, and the only reason why it failed was because the requirement at that time was they have to get a majority of all registered voters. But now it's been simplified. Now it just requires a simple majority. So I really don't see any other referendums failing. unless it's defeated by the people themselves.
What can the chapters do today to learn